Welcome, everyone. I'm glad. I love it when there's so much conversation that I just resist time. I cannot will myself to stop. It's hard. I love seeing all this happiness come into the room today. We are going to begin by rising in body or spirit and singing our gathering hymn number 298 with Now My Senses. Doing 3 verses here. There's 5. It's a lot. We're going to do 3.
And I think we know this one pretty well. The last 2 bars.
So last 2 bars, and then we're going to charge in. All right. Of Oxford. I'm Wendy Fringer, and I'll be leading the service today. If this is your first time here, or your 101st time, we are glad you are here. If you carry the weight of a weary world on your shoulders, or you entered the doors with a song in your heart and a skip in your step, we are glad you are here. If you're the loudest voice in the town square, or the subtle hand behind the scenes, we are glad you are here. If you have failed once, or 1,000 times, we're glad you're here. If you sing like angels or mumble behind the hymnal, we are glad you are here. This community is what it is because of your presence. So welcome. Welcome into this space of love, support, justice, compassion, fellowship, and worship. We are glad you are here. The mission of UUCO is to provide a caring intergenerational community that fosters spiritual growth through the free thought and discussion with respect for personal belief, seeks the wisdom of many religious traditions and of ourselves, a community that celebrates diversity and encourages the expression of personal ideals in service to people, other life, and the planet. We're a congregation in which lay people like me share leadership of our services with our halftime minister, Reverend Sarah Osborne. And I'll add, since this is announcement time too, if you're interested in getting involved with services, even if it's just lighting the chalice or reading occasionally, please reach out to me or to James Bowker, our Sunday services chair, or really anyone on the board. We would love to have you involved in whatever way you'd like. I want to go and draw your attention to some announcements. First and foremost, our Adult OWL series, Our Whole Lives, Lifespan Sexuality Education, launches next Sunday at 2 o'clock. So you have time to maybe come to the service, run home, change your clothes, get comfy again, come back with some food in your belly, whatever. This is a great opportunity for community. It's a great opportunity to see Reverend Sarah do things that she's really, really good at because she's been training and doing these things for many years now. It's a great opportunity to get to know people in a new way. And you might think, Adult OWL, I don't know. I think I got this at this point in my life, you know? I promise you, it is so much more than what you think it is. And if you want to do it, you do need to RSVP so we can anticipate how many people are coming. This is a partnership, so Reverend Sarah will always be kind of our focal point for Adult OWL, but there's different OWL trainers who will also be, coming into those lessons. So Afton will be there for this first lesson, if that helps. Afton, everybody loves Afton. But you do need to RSVP, and that, healthfully, just right here, there's a QR code. You could also just email Sarah and say, hey, I want to come. That information is also in the announcements. So please make sure.
It's at 2 o'clock.
It's at 2 o'clock. Yep, don't forget. You have time to run home, put on your comfy clothes, and come back. That's the intention. Because I like comfy clothes. I don't want to stay in my Sunday clothes all day. So that's an announcement. I really encourage you to do it. Great opportunity. Tell your friends too. It's not just for people in the congregation. Also, we are launching religious exploration registration for the coming year. We're very excited about the cool things we have on offer. So in addition to, everyone knows we're going to do OWL classes for youth, but we will also have a D&D campaign for 4th to 6th graders that Teague is going to run. If we have a 7th grader who wants to join in, you can do it too. It's going to be, what is it called, Teague? Bergville Shadow of the Dark Lich?
Yeah, Bergville Shadow.
Shadow of the Dark Lich. I know everyone in here is like, oh gosh, that sounds amazing. I wish I was in 4th to 6th grade. It is a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and it is for anyone who wants to do it in that grade late range. You don't have to know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. Teague will teach you. It will be about once a month they meet for a couple hours during the service, if that helps. And it'll be kind of, there will be UU values embedded in it, but it's D&D. It's straight up fun. There will be some other things too. We have Faith Quest, which will be more of a game-based and play-based exploration of some of our values, and that will be happening on a monthly basis for all children and youth, and we hope to have youth group again because we've enjoyed that in the past with all different kinds of activities. So look out for those dates, get registered, tell your friends to register their children, and it's going to be a good time. One or two other things. I just want to remind everyone that the Mississippi Remembers Black Student Resistance and Community Memorialization Project is happening, and that's coming up too, September 5th to 7th. The Remembrance Project is involved, Southern Studies is involved, there are cute little flyers right there on the table, so please make sure that you mark this on your calendar. It is free and open to anyone. Everyone is encouraged to participate in that. And I think that's all my big announcements. Anyone else got an announcement I overlooked? There's just so many. Things always happening. Okay. Good. Well then, we will enter the sacred space of worship. Our call to worship comes from Margaret Rankel's Nature of Joy. She writes, I think the ever-present threat my wild neighbors live with must tell us something about the nature of joy. The fallen world, peopled by predators and disease, and the relentlessness of time, shot through with every kind of suffering, is not the only world. We also dwell in Eden, and every morning the world is trying to renew itself again. Why should we not glory in it too? And with that, it is now time for the moment in our service where we greet one another. As a gesture of holy hospitality, we invite you to share a moment with the folks around you. Extend a hand in peace, offer a hug, or perhaps a word. And as a practice of consent, if you would prefer not to engage in this ritual, simply put your hand over your heart, and folks will honor your choice. So now please turn to your neighbor, to your left and your right, and briefly greet them. Y'all are so delightfully rowdy. I love it. All right, with that, I would like to invite JT forward to light the chalice. Are you willing to light the chalice, JT? And we're going to do an interactive chalice lighting today. This chalice lighting was written by Michael DeVernon Boblett. We will light the chalice together, and so where I pause, what I want all of you to do is respond with, "We are not alone." And we'll light it together. All right. We are not alone. We are this flame, ancient as the stars, new as the vulnerable spark.
We are not alone.
We are this chalice rimmed by the spiral dance of searching.
We are not alone.
We are the light soaring, the shadow deepening, the dance between them.
We are not alone.
We are the heirs of the tribes and their fires, the healers and their circles.
We are not alone.
We are here. We are here for ourselves. We are here for each other, and
We are not alone.
thank you. So now please join us in our opening hymn, 306, Sing of Living, Sing of Dying. Tycho, do we need help with this? All right, he's gonna play it through once. That's your shot. And then we're charging it. Thank you. That's a tricky one, I know. So now I would like to call my son up here to read one of David Eagleman's short stories from the collection Some. Eagleman is a neuroscientist and a writer, and in this collection he offers a series of visions of possible afterlives.
Great expectations. As the happy result of a free market capitalist society, we are finally able to determine our own hereafter. It has become privatized and computerized. For a reasonable price, you can download your consciousness into a computer to live forever in a virtual world. In this way, you can rage against the dying of the light by choosing an afterlife that is fast, furious, and spicy, the crystallization of your fantasies. You can predefine your lovers, maximize your sexual allure, zoom around electric pumping cities in your choice of a dozen Porsches. You get firmer muscles, a perfect complexion, and a flat washboard belly. Innumerable virgins cheerfully await your arrival. Cell phones and jetpacks are standard issue. Sizzling cocktail parties run around the clock. It is no surprise that everyone is lining up for this avant-garde afterlife instead of slipping into worm fodder. It is far better to choose the moment of your own death and elect the finest of all possible hereafters. The only ones not signing up are a few religious folks who claim they're waiting for their heaven, imagining they will discover themselves in an afterlife of biblical description. The company, having long ago outgrown the concept of God, attempts to explain to these people that their fantasies have cursed their available realities. The religious counter that God's greatest gift to them is the ability to look beyond what their eyes can see and have faith in something grander. That's not a gift, that's a trap, the company retorts. It's like having a wonderful lover available, but desiring an unattainable movie star instead. The religious don't sign up and eventually slip off into a neutral death in a lonely hospital bed. For the rest of us, the transition into the virtual hereafter is painless. When your pre-scheduled moment arrives, you come into the office and recline in the red dental chair. The company nurse assures you that you will feel as though you've closed your eyes in their office and without delay open them again in your glorious virtual afterworld. A technician presses a button and you become pulverized by a laser beam. A copy of the three-dimensional structure of your brain is recreated in zeros and ones on a cluster of hyper-threading processors. There's only one caveat. The neuroscientists and engineers who have developed this procedure have no way of proving it works. After all, the pulverized have no way to report back. However, it is generally agreed that nothing can go wrong with the download. All of our physical theories predict that reconstructing an exact replica of the brain will produce exactly the feeling of being that person. So everyone presumes that it works. Sadly, it does not work. Its failure is not due to bad engineers or unscrupulous businessmen, but rather stems from a misunderstanding of the cosmic scheme. Your essence cannot be downloaded because your essence, which the company did not believe existed as a separate entity, gets spirited off to heaven. Despite your excitement about being chosen, about your chosen afterlife, it turns out that God exists after all and has gone through great trouble and expense to construct an afterlife for us. So you awake on soft clouds encircled by harp-strumming angels, finding yourself swathed in a white toga. Problem is that this isn't what you wanted. You just paid good money for an afterlife of fast cars and charisma and drinking and lovemaking. This heaven, by comparison, seems hopelessly inadequate and stale. You're wearing an ill-fitting white sheet instead of an anti-gravity jetpack. Endless white columns are the replacement for pumping electric cityscapes. There's manna and milk at the buffet instead of sushi and sake. The harp music is maddeningly slow, and you're still as unattractive as ever. There's nothing to do here. The overweight people to your left are playing bridge. All this recent disappointment has put God in an awkward position. He nowadays spends much of his time trying to comfort his subjects scattered across the cloudscapes. Your fantasies have cursed your realities, he explains, wringing his hands. The company offered you no evidence that it would work. Why did you believe them? Although he doesn't say it, everyone knows what he's thinking when he retires to his bed at night. That one of his best gifts, the ability to have faith in an unseen hereafter, has backfired.
Thank you. And it is now our time for all ages. So some of you may remember the book or the cartoon, The Little Prince, and if you don't know it, you should. It's a slim little book, and it's absolutely worth reading any time in your life. And it tells the story of a little boy who lives on a tiny planet. He tends his 3 volcanoes, one of which is extinct, and his baobab trees, he makes sure that they grow and do well too. And then one day, he has a rose that takes root and it grows. And there's a whole thing. He has a relationship with this rose because it can talk. It's a really fraught relationship and it ends badly. So he leaves to explore the universe. He goes on this quest and he ultimately lands on Earth. So we're going to have a moment of story about what has happened once he lands on Earth and he meets someone who lives there. I do have a box. We do need it open so we can see what that is, and then Afton is going to come up and share that story with us. So will someone open the box and show us what we have in here? Okay, so who wants to open the box? I need a volunteer. I just did this. It's not opening. Mary, you're always a good sport. What is that?
Looks like a black bear.
No.
It's a wolf?
It's a fox, yeah. It's a fox, and he's actually made of coal, which I think is kind of nice. So we'll let him look at us while Afton reads. Thank you, Afton.
You're welcome. It won't stay. It will stay. Can you all hear me? Yes. Good morning. All right. Good morning. said the fox. Good morning, the little prince responded politely, although when he turned around, he saw nothing. I am right here, the voice said, under the apple tree. Who are you? Asked the little prince, and added, You are very pretty to look at. I am a fox, the fox said. Come and play with me, proposed the little prince. I am so unhappy. I cannot play with you, the fox said. I am not tamed. Ah, please excuse me, said the little prince. But after some thought, he added, What does that mean, tame? You do not live here, said the fox. What is it that you are looking for? I am looking for men, said the little prince. What does that mean, tame? Men, said the fox. They have guns and they hunt. It is very disturbing. They also raise chickens. These are their only interests. Are you looking for chickens? No, said the little prince. I am looking for friends. What does that mean, tame? It is an act too often neglected, said the fox. It means to establish ties. To establish ties? Just that, said the fox. To me, you are still nothing more than a little boy who is just like 100,000 other little boys, and I have no need of you, and you, on your part, have no need of me. To you, I am nothing more than a fox like 100,000 other foxes. But if you tame me, then we shall need each other. To me, you will be unique in all the world, and to you, I shall be unique in all the world. My life is very monotonous, he said. I hunt chickens, men hunt me, all the chickens are just alike, and all the men are just alike. And in consequence, I am a little bored. But if you tame me, it will be as if the sun came to shine on my life. I shall know the sound of a step that will be different from all the others. Other steps send me hurrying back underneath the ground. Yours will call me, like music, out of my burrow. And then look, you see the grain fields down yonder? I do not eat bread. Wheat is of no use to me. The wheat fields have nothing to say to me, and that is sad. But you have hair that is the color of gold. Think how wonderful that will be when you have tamed me. The grain, which is also golden, will bring me back the thought of you, and I shall love to listen to the wind in the wheat. The fox gazed at the little prince for a long time. Please tame me, he said. I want to very much, the little prince replied, but I have not much time. I have friends to discover and a great many things to understand. One only understands the things that one tames, said the fox. Men have no more time to understand anything. They buy things already made at the shops. But there is no shop anywhere where one can buy friendship, and so men have no friends anymore. If you want a friend, tame me. What must I do to tame you? Asked the little prince. You must be very patient, replied the fox. First you will sit down at a little distance from me, like that, in the grass. I shall look at you out of the corner of my eye, and you will say nothing. Words are the source of misunderstandings, but you will sit a little closer to me every day. The next day, the little prince came back. It would have been better to come back at the same hour, said the fox. If, for example, you come at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, then at 3 o'clock I shall begin to be happy. I shall feel happier and happier as the hour advances. At 4 o'clock, I shall already be worrying and jumping about. I shall show you how happy I am. But if you come at just any time, I shall never know at what hour my heart is to be ready to greet you. one must observe the proper rites. What is a rite? Asked the little prince. Those also are actions too often neglected, said the fox. They are what make one different from other days, 1 hour from other hours. There is a rite, for example, among my hunters. Every Thursday they dance with the village girls. So Thursday is a wonderful day for me. I can take a walk as far as the vineyards. But if the hunters danced at just any time, every day would be like every other day, and I should never have any vacation at all. So the little prince tamed the fox, and when the hour of his departure drew near, "Ah," said the fox, "I shall cry." "It is your own fault," said the little prince. "I never wished you any sort of harm, but you wanted me to tame you." "Yes, that is so," said the fox. "But now you are going to cry?" said the little prince. "Yes, that is so," said the fox. "Then it has done you no good at all." "It has done me good," said the fox, "because of the color of the wheat fields." Thank you all. Thought I would read it.
Thank you, Afton. It is now the time in our service when we will accept our weekly offering. Our collection is split, with half going to our monthly Share the Plate designee and half going to support the mission of UUCO. Our Share the Plate recipient this month is Doors of Hope, and we have with us a special guest. Mary Margaret Andrews is the Executive Director of Doors of Hope, and would you mind coming up to share a little bit about your work?
Thank you for having me this morning. How many of you know about Doors of Hope or have heard of Doors of Hope? Okay, good. So we help families in Lafayette County that are at risk of homelessness. And what we want to do is keep them housed. And when I say families, I mean anyone with minor children under the age of 18. We help them in a couple of different ways. We have 2 different programs. One is our emergency assistance program. It's a one-time help, and it's meant to kind of get them over the hump. Something's happened, some kind of crisis, a car repair, a medical emergency that has caused them to get behind on their rent. And we want to keep them from being evicted. So we help them that one time to get over the hump. The other program is our Housing in Place program, which is more intensive. It's a 4 to 6 month program where we are working with them every week to teach them how to budget, to live on a budget, to live on what they make, or to help them figure out other ways to increase their revenues or income so that they can not be living on the edge as most of them are. So both of these programs come with an educational component. We feel very strongly that we need to help them and educate them on how to manage their finances and what they need to do to, keep from getting in this situation over and over again. Most of our clients are single mothers. They want a better life for their kids. As we know, Oxford is a very expensive place to live, and once they're evicted, it is very difficult to find housing for them after that. So that's what we do. We feel very passionate about our work. We appreciate your support, and thank you very much for giving your offering to us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
you.
We enter now into a ritual to share what is on our hearts and lay it at the altar of community and spirit. Using a pebble dropped into a bowl of water to symbolize the ripple effect of the events of our lives upon the larger community, we will now share the grief, gratitude, and moments of growth that have touched our lives since we were last together. Our first pebble is one of joy for visitors and friends, and we offer a warm welcome to you. We're so happy that you're here today. And now we will share the written words of our joys and concerns. I have a concern from Tycho. My high school piano teacher, Robert McGahee, and his wife have experienced a tragedy. His wife, Chastity, was in a bad car accident. Donations to their GoFundMe will help them a lot. I understand she's been released from the hospital, but it's going to be a long recovery. So Tycho has brought these today, so there's a QR if you want to donate. There are some out, I think, in the lobby there, but I'll leave one up here at the front too if you want to help. So thank you, Tycho, for bringing that to our attention. I also have one of gratitude from Mary Caha. My son Tom will come into Oxford August 23rd to accompany to Spain. Please keep Michael and Betsy in your positive thoughts for transportation that is reliable, and for Angie, who has painful knee problems. So we will keep them in our thoughts. Thank you. Does anyone have one that didn't get written down? I only had 2 today. I'm going to point out that Jazz Brizak is here with us, which is a joy. I mean, Possum Town Book Festival went well yesterday, I understand, and Jazz is here for that reason, but also to visit, and it's always a good homecoming.
It's an excuse.
Yes, we're glad to have her with us. Mary?
Keep in mind the President's Conference with all these people part of Ukraine.
Yes,
It's a really important meeting.
yes, we will be keeping.
May they do what's right for the planet.
Yes, Ukraine and Gaza both in our hearts and thoughts always. Thank you. And finally, we drop a pebble into the water for all the grief, gratitude, and growth moments that remain unspoken. All that we hold in our hearts for ourselves, for each other, and for the world is held in this community and by a love that is limitless. Amen, and blessed be. Now I'll ask Gwen to come forward and offer a reading to a poor old woman.
This is by William Carlos Williams. To a poor old woman, munching a plum on the street, a paper bag of them in her hand. They taste good to her. They taste good to her. They taste good to her. You can see it by the way she gives herself to the one half sucked out in her hand, comforted, a solace of ripe plums seeming to fill the air. They taste good to her.
Thank you, Gwen. All right. So last week, Reverend Sarah's theme referenced the myth of Pandora's box, and she talked about the need for us to use discernment in our reception of gifts and in our exercise of the power of conscience, which faith leaders hold in the pulpit. I want to return to that myth for a moment and think about the gifts of the Pandora's box story, because I think there's another lesson that it kind of occurred to me as I was reflecting on my way home from the service, kind of driving and thinking. So just really quickly, just to remind, and for those who weren't there, Prometheus steals the gift of fire and he gives it to men. The gods retaliate. They give another gift, they give 2 gifts, but I'm not going to talk about the woman who was given as a gift. I'm just going to focus on the dowry. And men, Epimetheus, cannot know what the dowry in that box really is. They just know they have a box, or really it's a jar in the myth. What I'm interested in right now is not what's in that box or jar. I'm interested in what they think is in it. The gods intend Epimetheus to suppose it's the usual kind of dowry that you might find in a box, gold or jewels, some kind of wealth. So let's think about those 2 things for a minute. Fire and wealth. What does each of these gifts have to offer, and what makes it a gift? You can think of it as a teach a man to fish kind of thing with fire, right? Fire is a skill, It's a technology, it's a tool, and once you have it, you have to put a lot of effort in. You need to gain other technologies, and you can use it to gain those things. You can use it to create goods, but it's not there right away, right? It's not immediate. Eventually, after a long time, you might even be able to acquire some of the things that are the wealth in that box using fire. But the wealth in the box, well, its value is a lot more concentrated. It's more fungible than fire. You can use gold and jewels to just buy the ready-made things you want: food and clothes, housing, luxury goods, the labor of other people. Fire, it's for practical uses as well as complicated ones. And it was given by Prometheus in order to alleviate the suffering and misery of men. You have to maintain it, you have to work at that to keep it going, or it goes out. Wealth, on the other hand, at least the kind you keep in a box, it isn't immediately practical. It has to be converted to be used. But it can be saved with minimal effort, unlike fire. So we have a gift meant to be used for the immediate needs of life, but which you can use for other things down the road, and a gift meant to be used for wants or for the future. And they make an interesting contrast. And for the record from that story, fire is a gift that men received gratefully. But that box on the shelf, Epimetheus said to leave it, don't open it. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and a professor and former chairman of the Northwestern Band of the Shoshone Nation, Darren Perry, he addressed our group. He was one of the keynotes, and it was a rural sociology conference. At that conference, I heard a lot of really great papers about new small-scale agricultural methods, really neat stuff, about digesters, which convert livestock waste into usable products, about policy changes that make family-operated meat production more competitive in the marketplace. I heard about the likelihood of cities creating self-sufficient food systems, and just a spoiler, like if you can do math, you can figure out that that's not going to ever happen, so we should just set that out there. It was a really good paper. The innovations in technology and culture were a focus for a lot of folks, and they were really exciting. But Mr. Perry's point was this, and I'm going to paraphrase. He said, we, meaning citizens of industrialized nations, we tend to act like what we have is an innovation problem, thinking we can innovate our way out of anything, right? The crises we have created with our unsustainable approaches to life on this earth, if we just do the research, if we think and we plan and we work together, we can fix it. But he said that's not our real problem. What we have is a values problem. And that's something we have to fix first in order for any innovation to be able to change our trajectory in a meaningful way. And I think he's put his finger exactly on it. Western civilization has a long habit of imagining that our greatest problem is the uncertainty of tomorrow, and that the most valuable solutions are those that insulate us from the possibly negative effects or events of that tomorrow. Our vulnerability to pain and disease and poverty and loss, all those ills that flew out of Pandora's box last week and that are still kind of floating around, I just found a few more back there. Those things, that vulnerability is the problem that we need to solve. And so we solve it. We build electrical grids and information distribution technologies and water systems and corporate agriculture and huge militaries and weapons of mass destruction and big bureaucracies to distribute all the scarcity that we're willing to give out. We try to solve it as individuals too, by accumulating financial capital that we can use to purchase safety and health and basic needs, our savings, continuity. We buy insurance for our phones, our cars, our homes, our teeth, our health, our disability, our lives. Once upon a time, the medieval church even sold certainty in the afterlife. You could buy indulgences to ensure your soul's security in heaven. And I'm not going to make a comment on what's being peddled in today's churches, but as a UU, I feel like I'm uninsured, and I'm very happy about that. It's a good place to be. But what if the problem is not actually the ills that flew out of the box into the world? And what if vulnerability to those ills in and of itself is not the problem either? What if the box, or our desire to possess the box, what if that's the problem? I'm going to share a little story here with permission. So my godson recently bought his very first car. It cost a little over $1,000, and then he had to insure it, and he had to get a new battery so it would run. And he bought a model that he knew he'd be able to repair, because at that price, that car is going to need a lot of TLC on a regular basis. And his first trip outside of town, when he knew he could trust it, was driving it to the next county over to see his little sister and give her some life advice, which she completely ignored. But he did it. And that car, it's not just a car. It represents for him a journey that he's been on for the last decade, really. It's his fire. It's his path to a full-time job, his way out, his way home to family. It's a reflection of his values. He worked for that car. He saved. He prayed. He reached out to his network of supporters for funds to crowdfund the part he couldn't cover with his savings, because he knew he was going to need to do repairs as well as buy it. That car is the only thing he owns outside of a few shirts and a pair of pants and the boots. He's got his boots, loves those. Right now, he worries less than anyone I know, because he's living the best life he's ever had. Our conversations are full of gratitude that he has for everyday things that are good in his life. And here's the thing, what he has right now, the only thing he can count on is not that car. It's overlapping groups of fellow travelers, fellow recovering addicts with whom he's been in community for a little over a year. He knows that the offices that have supported them this far are about to fall apart. He's seeing it already. Our politicians are divesting from the public good, and already those cracks are showing. But he's found his family, and he has his health, and he has his faith, and he has his car. So he focuses each day on that and the next one after it. He lays short-term plans that lead to long-term ones, and he trusts that all will be well, because at last he has found his equilibrium. He has people around him who care about his good days and his bad days. He has his values. If his car breaks down, he knows he can always find a ride. He has what he needs, and it's sufficient. Sufficiency is enough for him to live his values. And I don't want to idealize his situation. It's precarious, it's vulnerable, and I worry about him, even if he worries less. But it's that vulnerability that I think throws into relief some possibilities. He has opened himself to transformation through the relationships he's formed. He has sufficiency, and maintaining that is his focus. It shifts everything. For others, $1,000 might be a long weekend trip, or 2 months the family phone plan. It might be a retirement plan contribution, and these are all fine things. But I would argue they don't have the value of that car. It also seems to me that most of us spend a lot of time thinking about these things. They absorb an inordinate amount of our time and energy as we maintain them. All the stuff in our houses that has to be organized and cleaned and sorted, all the things we want to do 6 months from now or 3 years from now that has to be prepared for, all the things that could go wrong, those things need to be managed, defended against, worried over in the middle of the night, products and services purchased to prevent them. We need gym memberships, bargain hunting, health appointments, meetings have to be called, budgets reviewed, phone calls made, research done, experts queried, family notified, legal documents have to be written and revised. We live abundant lives, most of us here today. And the price is a certain egoistic attention to our own matters, a focus on making ourselves and those closest to us invulnerable. Invulnerability to discomfort, to suffering, to pain, or even invulnerability to being at fault. Well, I did the right thing even if everyone else didn't. Invulnerability is the primary goal of abundance. But here's something. I think this is not a revolutionary thing I'm talking about here. Most world religions have been trying to get us for the last several thousand years of human history to notice this about ourselves. Over and over, we see them asking in different ways, what if, in all this fetishizing of prudence and responsibility, we're actually missing an opportunity to go deeper, to be richer in a real way? That's the big question, right? It's so hard to ask it and answer it, though, that for thousands of years we keep returning to it over and over in its variations. In our comfortable air-conditioned homes where we don't need to sit out on the front porch in the evenings to cool down, and in the lives many of us lead in which we spend time mostly with others who are like us, who we find enjoyable in company. In those years when unexpected bad things are a painful exception to the rule of overall predictability and order that we're used to, we shake our heads because we're insulated. We are as safe as we've been able to make ourselves. We surround ourselves with abundance and make ourselves invulnerable, and that means our possibilities for growth are also limited. Is that what we want? Is that what we value? Eagleman's afterlifers disappoint God. They don't want to enjoy the bounty he feels he's given them. Their desires are other desires, the pleasures he offers too mundane. They try to opt out of death in favor of an afterlife of individualistic thrills and pleasures, risk without consequence. They don't want his harp music and his bridge games. I would venture a guess, though, that most of us in this room are probably not going to be sold on an afterlife of fast cars and hard drinking. There may be a few, I don't know, but most of us are probably not looking for that. Are we looking at Sufino over there? But I do see myself in that story all the same. I'm not great at believing in what I can't see. I'm a planner. I do think I like bridge, and I know I like harp music. But I wouldn't mind being 28 all over again, and I wouldn't mind a giant plate of nachos every day in heaven without any kind of consequence, and really, really good fresh salsa, and a good cocktail now and then would be okay. So if there really was an afterlife, I would definitely want to control the outcomes, just like I try to do in my everyday life. That's me. My fantasies definitely have the potential to curse my realities. So I've been reading this book for the Characters of Leaders Initiative at the university, and it's called The Character Gap. It's by a philosopher, Christian B. Miller, and he points out that most of us aren't virtuous. I'm sure if he had studied UUs, he would have come to a different conclusion, because we're all, of course, very virtuous. But the good news is that most humans are not vicious either. We're all just kind of, kind of so-so. And the really interesting thing is this. Psychologists have shown with pretty solid results in labs as well as real-world settings, decade after decade, that certain conditions encourage us to act virtuously, even if we're not motivated for the right reasons, like altruism. And that we resist acting viciously, even if we can in the end be kind of manipulated under certain conditions. We do try to resist. So knowing all this, we can create the conditions for more virtue, less vice. So for example, in one study, they took people in a mall, and they had some people in the mall feel guilty because they interacted with an actor. They didn't know that he was an actor, but he convinced them they'd broken his expensive camera. And then that group of guilty people later in the mall encountered a shopper who was leaking candy from a bag and didn't know it. That group of people helped that person. They let them know, and they helped clean up, right? But there was another group of people that encountered the same actor, and he just told them that his camera acts up sometimes, don't worry about it. That group of people were not as inclined to help, significantly, by a lot less likely to help. So in other words, people with a guilt condition are more likely to act compassionately than people walking around in their usual headspace. And other studies have shown that embarrassment or an urge to avoid embarrassment or even just a bad mood or being uncomfortable because of some physical condition, these things also make people act more compassionately. It seems maybe a little counterintuitive that negative feelings inspire acts of helping, but at the same time, I think it also makes sense. Feeling bad ourselves makes us feel vulnerable. That discomfort lowers our shields a bit, I think. It helps us empathize with others and also wish to prevent their discomfort, not just for good reasons, altruistic reasons, because we want to help, but also maybe even primarily because it relieves our discomfort, our feeling of guilt. I was in a bad mood or whatever, but now I did something good, I can feel good. Christian Miller's argument is that acting in this way isn't truly virtuous because we're relieving our own bad feelings, but what it does suggest is that those conditions, unpleasant conditions, can inspire us to practice virtuous acts, and that has social as well as personal benefits. We don't have to think only of the virtue of compassion. There can be other virtues too, but it's those conditions. Do we create the conditions for ourselves? Earlier, we were reminded by Margaret Rangel that the ever-present threat our wild neighbors live with must tell us something about the nature of joy, and she suggested that Eden is something that is renewed around us every day. It's that risk, that fragility, that adds poignance to the joy. Think again of the fox and the little prince. It's an odd scene, a fox asking to be tamed. The deliberate choice of that word, tamed, points to that threat, that power imbalance. The fox knows he won't be comfortable being tamed, that he'll feel uneasy. He knows he'll resist a little, but he's willing to be vulnerable, to be open to giving up his freedom in order to have the benefits of tameness. A new kind of connection to his world through that relationship with the little prince. And in his wisdom, he knows it's something the little prince needs to learn too. How to open oneself to a love with boundaries, to be vulnerable in the right way. The little prince's previous relationship with a rose had been full of selfishness and manipulation and resentment and an obsession with comfort. The fox invites him into a new way of being, offers himself up as vulnerable and within the prince's power so the prince can himself learn to become tame. Miller suggests that if we want to become virtuous people, one of the most proven ways to do so is by selecting situations that help us practice. In other words, we need to take some risks, make ourselves vulnerable in the right ways, so that by practicing acting virtuous, we become virtuous. People who are truly virtuous, psychology shows, are motivated by altruistic reasons. They do good because it's the right thing to do, because they care for others, because they think of consequences to others who are not themselves. Now, you can feel good when you do good, but as Miller points out, when you get in a car to go to a destination, that's why you got in that car. If you crack the window and you enjoy the breeze, or you listen to some music and you enjoy that on the way there, that's not the reason you got in the car, but it's a nice benefit. And the same is true of feeling good about doing good. But you don't get there, no one gets there, because of some intrinsic goodness. You get there through practice. And the good news for all of us is that we can choose to create those conditions that will allow us to practice becoming virtuous. So back to that box of Pandora's. You probably have something like that on your shelf. A box full of what you think of as abundance and of security. And I know I do. That's why I wrote this, so I can think about it all. What if our values directed our attention away from the hoarding of that box, its filling and storage and care and use? What if we allowed ourselves to acknowledge need and vulnerability and then just sit with that for a while? What if our values shifted our attention instead toward the fire? It's risky. Fire can hurt you. You have to tend it, and it takes time to learn to use properly. You're going to need others to help you use it if you want to do anything beyond the basics. And what you make with it might always turn out just right. But in the end, you can do a lot more with fire. And with that, I'm going to share our releasing of the flame. Gwen, would you maybe come forward for that? It's a poem by Eamon Grennan called Enough. First thing I saw near dawn on the road to the dunes this morning was at last the fox, just a quick glimpse of him on the run, but enough to see his color as the color of marsh hay in the season, copper and ginger streaked with slaty black, and see his ears, plump sides, rump and bushy tail vanishing into a vault of twisted tree roots between some houses and the salt marsh, where he's left line after line of his impressions for me to follow. But easier in my mind now, having seen his real presence ignite like that, the beautiful slow burn of it as he steps out of my sight into his own tangle of shadows, and not having to content myself with the marks only of his absence, the smell of him, his neat prints filling with sand. Now please rise in body or spirit, and we will sing our closing hymn 311, Let It Be a Dance. Okay, we'll play it through and then we'll sing together. right, and now we'll have our congregational blessing, so please remain standing. Our closing congregational blessing words are written in your word I can't think of, service, order of service. Go in peace, believe in peace, create peace, be peace. Thank you all, and please linger after for the coffee hour. I lost my words.